Welcome into One on One. I'm Reed Spencer, joined by my co-host Logan Mosier. As always, it was a college football weekend that was billed to be a great one, and it was an interesting week in the NFL. Some very NBA-like headlines coming from the New York Knicks that we'll get into, and OSU basketball. And Les Miles is coming back to town, so it could be an very interesting weekend ahead in Stillwater. But we'll start with college football. I know that the game in the SEC is what everyone wants to talk about, but we'll go around the Big 12. The top two teams barely escaped. OU, a 42-41 win over Iowa State, which Iowa State went for two, which I don't have a problem with, but what I do have a problem with is refs missing blatant calls. And by the way, Logan, Iowa State's still not bowl eligible.
Who would have thought Oklahoma State would become bowl eligible before Iowa State?
You probably could have made a lot of money on that one in Vegas.
Yeah, Kansas State's bowl eligible too before Iowa State. I think that's it in the Big 12, in Texas. But like of the teams you didn't think would be better than Iowa State, Oklahoma State and Kansas State.
I mean, if I'm looking at OU, I have serious question marks now because I thought they would. I thought it would be a blowout.
I did
too. I didn't think there was any way off that loss to Kansas State and then a bye week in the middle that OU would lose. I didn't even think it would be a game. And that wasn't a disrespect to Iowa State. It was OU's ticked.
Well, in the first half, it looked that way. I mean, what'd they put up in the first half? 35 points? And then 7 the rest of the way.
And allowed 20 by Iowa State in the fourth quarter.
Right. I think you have to give a ton more credit to Iowa State's coaching staff than I think a lot of people are right now. They'd made great halftime adjustments and stopped OU in the second half for the most part. If you hold Oklahoma to 7 points and a half, period, you did a fantastic job, and they put themselves in a position to win the game. So this is a bad look for Oklahoma. I think at this point, with this close win and the Kansas State loss, there's no chance they're in the playoff.
I mean, unless they blow out everyone, and they will have to do it to Baylor twice.
I was about to say, I don't know if they can do that.
And even then, Baylor's an undefeated team was 12th in the country.
Yeah.
How much respect do people really have for Baylor? They get taken to 3 overtimes by a bad TCU team. I mean, the Big 12 is probably not going to be in the college football playoff at this point. Certainly other things can happen. But OU, man, I was not impressed. Sure, they did have the big lead, but they allow 20. I mean, what a dime by Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a dime. You hit a wide open guy. But, Brock Purdy, against this defense that was, up until 2 weeks ago, was everything that was going to turn OU into a powerhouse. Not that they weren't already, but, nationally, they weren't competing with Alabama and teams like that, especially when they met. They got smoked. They finally had a defense. Now they don't have – defense is kind of resorted back to what they always were. They weren't quite that bad. They're allowing less yards per play than Alabama, so you can't go off on them that bad. But, the total yards for Iowa State, 477, 195 of that on the ground. I'm not going to talk – OU had higher totals, but that's OU's offense.
Right.
That is what we thought OU would be. But Brock Purdy, 19 to 30, 282 yards. It'd be a good day to have college fantasy, 5 touchdowns.
Oh, man. I couldn't imagine what he would have put up in fantasy. But I just don't – what does this mean for you for the rest of the way for Oklahoma? Are you buying that the defense is back to where it was permanently or –
Well, I think it's certainly a problem that Alex Grinch and this defense are resorting to these things at this point of the season. This is when you're supposed to be hitting your stride.
Right.
Especially defensively. This is supposed to be it. And it's not been good for 2 straight weeks. I don't know. I'm not going to – listen, everyone knows the history of OU and Oklahoma State. Everyone knows whether Oklahoma State has a better team or not. They have a hard time beating OU.
Right.
But I think if you go into this game against OU, your defense is probably going to get gashed because that's what OU does. But if Oklahoma State and Chuba Hubbard could run the ball consistently, it's going to take the life out of OU. Does that mean OSU wins the game? I don't know. History would tell you not. But I think if you're looking at OU, I don't think they're as intimidating as they were 3 weeks ago. Not even close.
I don't either. I really don't either. And you look at the rest of the way for Oklahoma. They play Baylor next week, so that'll be a really telling game. leading into the game in Arlington. Because at this point, I'm pretty sure, I don't know mathematically, I'm sure it's not a lock for those two, but it's basically going to be, in my mind, those two at this point. Then
I want to ask you about that. We'll obviously be talking about that, but what do you think the line is for Saturday? It's 6:30 night game, OU Baylor.
Is it in Waco?
Yes, it is in Waco. Number 9 versus number 12. 8-1 versus 9-0, the top two teams in the Big 12.
Baylor by 3.5?
OU's favored by 10.
See, I just don't believe that at this point. And I still do think Oklahoma is a better football team, but right now with Baylor's momentum, they're at home.
But I will caution you, the past two Baylor games, they went to triple overtime with the bad TCU team and got taken down to the wire by a bad West Virginia team at home off of essentially a bye week.
That's true, but the loss for Kansas State and I don't know if Oklahoma's in a much better position. Obviously, they've played better teams than Baylor has, but they've been in similar situations, and they've actually lost one of those games. At least Baylor was still able to pull out a win when they got themselves in a bad situation.
I mean, initially on Monday, for me, I think OU, and that's what I said about Iowa State, so maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but in these games, Matt Rule, Lincoln Riley, it just seems like it's always bigger for OU, and it's they use the term Sooner Magic. It makes you want to roll your eyes at times because they're just a good football team.
Right.
Good football teams don't need magic; they just win.
Magic 5 stars.
And that's exactly what OU does. So for me, Jalen Hurts has got to, they don't have a ton of problems offensively, but defensively, what's Baylor going to do? And
Right.
I don't think that OU's weakness is Baylor's strength. So going forward, I would say OU's definitely. I don't know that I would put them at a 10-point favorite, but
Yeah.
I mean that's a little steep. But OU taken down to the wire by Iowa State. Baylor triple overtime. What? To TCU?
Yeah. And
Baylor
Dugan threw
didn't
3 picks again.
They didn't score until the third quarter. They had 9 total points in 4 quarters, put up 20 in overtime.
That's not good.
No, it's not.
That is, and they kind of had a similar situation against West Virginia. They scored in the first quarter, but then again they went scoreless again until the third quarter. I don't know what's going on with the Baylor offense, but it has completely stuttered. I guess they're not playing guys like UTSA and Stephen F. Austin. So they can't be putting up huge numbers like they were at the beginning of the year. But it's after the Oklahoma State game, I don't know what's happened to the Baylor offense. It's kind of disappeared. And honestly, in that Oklahoma State game, if they don't get that scoop and score in the fourth quarter, we might be having a completely different conversation because they could have ended up losing that game. And then who knows? But this just isn't a great look for the Big 12 as a whole. You were hoping going into the year, as much as it sucks to say, you were hoping Oklahoma could get one of those playoff spots because it's good for the conference, and this conference does not get a lot of attention nationally as it is.
Right, and I think the point you're trying to make is beating each other up isn't always bad. If
Right.
OU gets in with a one-loss OU team is not the worst thing in the world. If they go down and lose by a field goal to Baylor, and that was their only loss, but then they redeemed themselves in the Big 12 championship game. It's like, yeah, it's fine. But now you're looking at Baylor's resume and OU's resume, and the rest of the Big 12's kind of beating each other up. It's like, what's the point here?
Yeah.
What's the end goal? Everyone wants to win, and I don't think that Gary Patterson really gives a crap about beating Baylor and be like, well, I'm glad we won, but
Dang, we hurt the conference.
really wish that Baylor was still undefeated so they could be a national player. It's like they don't feel that way, and the players
Yeah.
don't feel that way, but a conference as a whole not doing themselves any favors. Okay, the top 2 games this weekend. Texas, by the way, beat Kansas State 27-24. Texas
Barely.
Tech.
Dicker the kicker again.
I mean, that guy's a legend.
At this point, give him a statue.
Bringing down the Sunflower State on the leg of Dicker the kicker. Texas Tech, who we both thought were a ridiculous favorite, there's a reason they were a favorite.
Yep.
They only put up 3 points in the second half, but that's enough in a 38-17 win over West Virginia. Now the game of, 8 years ago was the game of the century. I don't know if this one had that label, but it was a good game. LSU topped Alabama 46-41. Ed Orgeron.
He did it. Go Tigers.
They did it.
I can't believe I was watching this game, and the first half was total domination by LSU. It was like I was definitely not expecting this whatsoever. I think Joe Burrow won the Heisman on Saturday. You might as well just engrave it right now and give it to him. But, I mean, LSU is – I knew they were for real anyway.
How did you miss the face mask on
yeah.
that? And it helped them, actually. It's the reason he probably got the space to score. But I don't know how you missed that.
Yeah, but I was so impressed with what LSU was able to do in the first half. Bama was able to make it close in the second half, but I feel like the scoreboard's kind of lying about how the game felt in real time. I felt like LSU had this from start to finish.
It was over for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, LSU was just dominant.
Absolutely
Dominant. A Tua Tagovailoa on that injured ankle, though, 21 of 40, 408 yards and 4 touchdowns. Joe Burrow, though, I think I agree with you, probably won himself the Heisman, 31 of 39, 393 and 3 touchdowns. 2 of 3 interceptions, by the way, too. Joe Burrow did not turn the ball over. I mean, it's always weird to see Alabama get worked.
It is.
It's always weird to see Alabama get worked.
I can't remember the last time Alabama lost a game at home.
Probably, I mean, Ole Miss, I would say, a few years ago.
Yeah, because I mean,
I can't think of another
when they
one
lost to
off
Auburn, it was in Auburn.
Yeah, they just don't lose a lot at home.
They don't. It'll be in the YouTube video for sure. I love those YouTube videos. Have you ever seen those, like every Alabama loss since 2010?
Yeah, it's a 40-second clip.
Yeah, barely. Yeah, barely a video, but still some videos in there.
I mean, I was impressed. Listen, Ed Orgeron, with that thick Cajun accent, he's got a lot of personality. I never really believed in Ed Orgeron because it was Ole Miss didn't work out well. He had the interim label. Then he was a line coach. Then he takes over for Les Miles, and it's like, you're going to hire a line coach and you're trying to compete with Nick Saban? Apparently, I was wrong.
It worked.
Massively wrong. Ed Orgeron.
I don't know about massively wrong. Up until this game, Ed Orgeron was 0-8 versus Nick Saban.
That's true. And you never know what's going to happen to LSU later down the road.
Right.
But the fact that they went into Tuscaloosa and really kicked the you-know-what out of Alabama for 4 quarters, LSU was for real.
Are they the favorite to win it all now?
Yeah, I think you have to be. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen with Chase Young and Ohio State, and I don't think that's...
I think were they thinking 4 games for Chase Young?
Yeah.
So he'd be back in time for the Big Ten championship, I think.
I don't know. I mean, it's just LSU and Ohio State. I mean, I think those are the 2 real players. Those frauds, Penn State, who I was convinced were going to beat Minnesota. My bad. I won't say my bad. Why would I have believed in Minnesota? What was the evidence to believe in Minnesota?
I mean, are you sure it wasn't their win over, San Diego State or Fresno State or Rutgers? Those didn't sell you?
No. Good on Minnesota, though. That's a great win
Absolutely.
for P.J. Fleck, and he's doing great things up there. And Minnesota's...
Who would have thought a guy wins more games after getting a contract extension? That's weird.
Yeah,
I don't know what that's like.
Crazy how that happens. Looking at Minnesota, P.J. Fleck did a great job at Western Michigan, and being up there in the Twin Cities, it's not the easiest place to recruit.
Right.
And I told you this earlier. It's a lot like Oklahoma State. If you can find a guy that can get you 9, 10 wins consistently, you found your guy. And they may have found that with P.J. Fleck. But is Minnesota ever going to be a real player in the Big Ten and compete with Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State in the long run?
Not consistently.
No. But that's a great win for P.J. Fleck in that program. They jump up to the top 10 in the AP poll, stay undefeated, but they have a tough road ahead of them as well. Last point on this college football talk, Arkansas fired Chad Morris. They were 4-18.
Man.
And my favorite label for Arkansas is the Redneck Rutgers.
That's good.
They are quite possibly the worst Power 5 football team.
They're up there
in college football. They are an embarrassment to the Southeastern Conference. They are an embarrassment.
They just got whooped by Eastern Kentucky or Western Kentucky
by a guy that they made leave in Ty Story. They didn't want him back.
Yep.
And then he came into Fayetteville and beat him. There was like 7 people. I was in Fayetteville Saturday. There's literally no one there. I walked by the stadium with the game in progress, and I had no idea there was a game happening. None.
Oh.
Like you look up, it's like, top of this. Nope, nobody there. It was the worst game day environment I've ever experienced. It was embarrassing. I'm not an Arkansas fan, but I'm there and I'm going, whew, this is real bad.
Yeah.
And they fire him on Sunday. Now who do you go get if you're Arkansas? I mean,
Anybody.
PJ Fleck just signed a contract extension, so maybe he's off. Some of the guys, Mike Norville at Memphis.
Deion Sanders?
Hugh Freeze at Liberty. That would be an interesting one.
That would.
But there's a lot of guys out there competing for this Arkansas job, but 4-18. They had, in the 2 years he was there, 33 scholarship transfers. They lost by a margin of 21 points.
Oh, my gosh. That's embarrassing.
That's embarrassing.
I enjoyed it. I like it when Arkansas is bad like this, but that is embarrassing for the program. It was a much-needed change. It's kind of like the Florida State situation, though. Like, the guy you're going to go get's not going to fix it immediately.
No.
You're going to suck for 3 more years probably.
Well, and the crazy part with Arkansas now is they're a roster built up of 2 years of what Brett Bielema wanted and 2 years of what Chad Morris wanted. That's a spread football and power football. How do you combine that? How do you bring in a recruiting class now? I mean, Arkansas is in really bad shape. They have to get this hire right. We're going to take a quick break, come back and talk about the crazy things that happened in the National Football League this weekend. The Falcons, not only did they win a game, they beat the Saints.
I know.
Right back on One right after this. Welcome back into One Reed Spencer. Logan Mosher.
You gotta love it when they do the incomplete thing.
Touchdown.
And then it's a touchdown. That's so embarrassing.
And you do have to love Rudolph to Washington. It's still good.
You do.
In Pittsburgh.
It is. It worked. It worked well yesterday. Finally, they showed off that connection.
Yeah, I mean Pittsburgh. This game was not about Pittsburgh, by the way. This game was about the Rams and the fact
how
that
bad they are.
They're real bad.
Yeah.
Who's worse off this contract? And Barrett, this is for you behind the camera. We need an answer here. Who's the worst bad contract since they signed it? Jared Goff
or
Todd Gurley? Jared Goff went 22 of 41, 243 and 2 picks yesterday. Todd Gurley 12 carries, 73 yards, no touchdowns. Worst contract. Gurley. Barrett says Gurley.
Gurley. That is so tough. I want to say I'm going to go Gurley as well because at least Goff has shown some flashes this year of not being truly bad. I have not seen a good Todd Gurley game all year. And
have you seen a good Jared Goff game? I mean, Jared Goff's contract's a lot bigger.
It is. But you can always trick somebody into taking a quarterback with a bad contract. You can't do that with a running back.
Okay, so here's question number 2. Is it time? Barrett, this is for you too. We're going back to Barrett. Oh, yeah. Is it time to strip the label of genius off Sean McVay?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet. Barrett says not yet either.
They just put up 12 points in Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh's defense is good though. I'm not saying they're 12. I'm not saying 12 points is that was a bad game, but I would like to see Sean McVay with his guy, with his a quarterback he wants. He came in and he inherited Jared Goff, and Jared Goff worked out really well last year.
Okay, so I want to go down the Rams season for beat the Panthers by 3. Panthers are a good football team, but for a genius like Sean McVay off Super Bowl, should have been more.
Do you remember? Sorry to interrupt. Do you remember when after that Panthers game, there was like a story going around about how Sean McVay played it close because they wanted to know how to win close games because they just blew everybody out last year and then they didn't know how to play in the Super Bowl.
Also, now they're just learning how.
I was about to say now they're
just
just losing close games.
So
some of them not even close.
They beat the Panthers by 3. That Saints game they won 27-9, but that was the Drew Brees injury game.
Right.
The Browns by touchdowns. Browns stink. They lost to the Bucks. Seahawks, respectable. Lost to the 49ers, respectable loss. By the way, they put up 7 points in that 49ers game.
I was about to say, the Niners defense is also good. Not 7 points good for the Rams because the Rams are supposed to be a really good offense, but
they beat the Falcons by 27, which is understandable.
That might be too
unless
low.
They're playing the Saints. Obviously, they can't win a game. They only beat the Bengals by 14. Lamar Jackson ended their existence yesterday. And then they lose to the Steelers 17-12. I mean, down the rest of the schedule here, the Bears should be a win, but I don't know. The Ravens, that's a loss. At the Cardinals, that's no longer a win. Seahawks, no. Cowboys, no. 49ers, no. They may not make the playoffs.
Who gets worse if the Bears and the Rams switch quarterbacks?
Oh, the Rams find a way to get worse.
Get a lot worse?
Mitch Trubisky knows like 4 plays.
That's fair.
He knows more than that, but okay. They
6.
had to like simplify the playbook for him. Yeah, I would take Jared Goff now, but I think it's time to look at McVay and go, no longer a genius. And now the Bengals, well, they're 0-9, thinking.
I think it's definitely safe to say friends of Sean McVay are not geniuses.
Yeah, we really shouldn't have hired a guy that had a beer with Sean McVay.
Yeah,
regret that one, and I think the Bengals certainly do. I mean but there was a lot of stink in the NFL yesterday. And we can talk about my Chiefs if we have time. I'd rather not because I don't want to get that mad. But they deserve that loss. They deserve everything about it. Andy Reid mismanages the most important of game situations, and that's why they lost. And that's why, as a Chiefs fan, it's a gut punch every time they get in a major game. That was bad. The Chiefs deserve that loss. They need to be better going forward. I think they will be. But 3rd and 2 to seal a game, and they did what they did.
Yeah.
Fantastic. But it was a battle of New Jersey, not New York, because they played New Jersey. So you don't fight over a territory that you don't play in. So the Jets.
Battle for the cats. Battle for all the stray cats. That's what it is.
I wanted that cat to reemerge, and who's got the worst luck now? Because you're both these New York teams that are playing in the same stadium. Where does it go? And maybe that black cat being there may be the reason why they both are terrible.
Maybe.
But the Jets yesterday, they found a way to win. They found a way to do things outside the Dallas Cowboys. And, man, Barkley had a rough day.
13 carries for a yard.
Do you need to say that again?
13 carries for a yard.
Man, fantasy owners were ecstatic.
Oh, yes, they were. And 0 touchdowns. He did have his longest run was 3 yards, though.
Daniel Jones even had more going for him yesterday than Barkley. Daniel Jones, 26 of 40 and 4 touchdowns. Not a terrible day for Daniel Jones. Sam Darnold, 19 of 31 touchdown. Le'Veon Bell, just 34 yards. But they found a way to win the football game, and that's all that matters.
And, at least Le'Veon Bell and Barkley, too, they both got involved in the passing game a little bit. I think they both had over 30.
And Jamal Adams was a force.
Oh, absolutely.
Thankfully, he reconnected with
I wonder if he's talked to anybody.
Well, and he's partly why they won that game, that extra touchdown.
That pick 6, yeah.
Yeah, apparently he hashed things over with the general manager, so now they're fine.
I guess it was a scoop and score.
His feelings are no longer hurt. But
yeah.
Man, that's a rough game for the NFL to put out there. But for Jason, I'm happy.
Oh, absolutely.
They beat the Giants.
You love to see it.
Unfortunately for society, Darren Rovell was in Times Square in cowboy boots, a cowboy hat, and not much else. But unfortunately, that happened. But a good win for the Jets there. Now I think it's blatantly obvious that the Bengals are probably it.
Yep.
They're the number one pick.
Unless they mess up down the stretch, which I don't even know how they could do that after what they've been able to do this season. Then again, I thought the Dolphins were going to go winless.
Hey, the Dolphins got their second win of the day.
I will
over
say
the
the
Colts.
Bengals and the Dolphins do play each other in Week 15.
I think the Bengals. Well, at this point, that's not going to matter. So even if the Bengals win, everyone else has 2 wins. So
yeah.
even if they win that, more than likely,
Who knows? Bengals also play the Browns. Browns could drop one of those. That'd be hilarious.
they won yesterday. This was such a weird day.
It was.
The Dolphins won, the Jets won, the Falcons won, the Browns won, but the Bengals still lost. The Redskins didn't have to worry about. They didn't win yesterday either, Barrett. So I don't know what you're excited about over there, but they didn't lose. They didn't lose, and Dwayne Haskins now the starter for the rest of the year. They didn't lose.
They finally decided now that the left tackle has totally eliminated himself from ever possibly playing for the Redskins ever again. Now they're putting Dwayne Haskins out there. Good decision.
There's a lot of teams that mismanage things. The Redskins just whiffed on everything about that.
Yeah.
They might.
Yeah.
And Jason's probably up there now. I mean, he's happy about the Jets win, but now you're getting the Knicks storylines. Which is more dysfunctional, the Knicks or the Redskins?
I would honestly have to say the Redskins.
I'm gonna go Knicks.
I was about to say
because as much as I have zero respect for Dan Snyder, I think Dan Snyder actually wants to win. I think he cares.
That's fair.
I don't think Dan Snyder knows how to do it, but I think deep down Dan Snyder wants to win, and he genuinely thinks what he's doing is going to get them there. I don't think James Dolan cares about winning, and we'll talk about the Knicks later on.
Yeah.
But I think that the Knicks are more dysfunctional.
The only reason I said the Redskins off the bat is because at least the Knicks have a building block for the future, and they can say Haskins is, and maybe he will turn out to be that guy, but I just don't know who they're building around. At least the Knicks have R.J. Barrett.
Yeah. The third best Duke player from last year.
Oh, he's better than Cam Reddish.
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, yesterday was just a weird day. The Browns found a way to win in a 19-16. Does that change your mind any about the Browns?
No, but it did about the Bills. Like, it confirmed that the Bills are bad. Like, I knew the Bills weren't that good anyway. They just had a really good defense. Now they're just bad. They were the only competition New England had in the division, and I don't even know if they'll be a playoff team now. Going like early on in the year, before they lost to the Patriots, and even probably before they got smacked around by the Eagles, you were thinking, man, they're good. Their defense is really good. Josh Allen doesn't have to do a lot. Well, Josh Allen can't do a lot, and now the defense isn't as good. They let the Browns score 19, although they did stop them, 8 times from the 3. So,
with 2 defensive penalties.
Yeah.
I mean, what?
It was such a weird game. The whole thing yesterday was weird. The whole NFL.
At least they found a way to win.
They did.
They found a way to win, and that's something that they learned. The Bears get a 2013 win over the Lions.
No Matthew Stafford.
No.
Broken bones in his back.
And now the NFL is apparently looking into his injury.
Well, he was like a game-time decision, and they're like, oh, no, he has broken multiple bones in his back.
Yeah,
that was a game-time decision?
There was a little unfaithfulness there by the Lions. They did not do their due diligence.
Yeah.
So the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, he's turning out to be a special player. He's 15-17, 223 yards and 3 touchdowns. As the Ravens there's not an appropriate word for what they did to the Bengals. It was 49-13, and they didn't even score in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
He's not the best quarterback in the league. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to have the overreaction like that. But is he the MVP right now?
No. He's close. He's in the race, but
he's had I can't even say it with a straight face. He's had a perfect quarterback rating twice, but it's been against the Dolphins and the Bengals.
Thank you.
So I don't care
Everybody
about that.
freaks out about that on Twitter, and I'm like,
oh, who cares?
It's literally the worst teams. They are not trying to win. They would love it if Lamar Jackson had thrown 6 touchdowns instead of 3. If there was something better than, what is it, a 158.3 for a passer rating? If he had, they would have loved it if he could have had like a 160. Like, They don't care. They were not trying to stop them whatsoever.
Well, and with Lamar Jackson, he's fun to watch. He's incredible with his legs. But if he doesn't learn how to not run, it's not going to last very long. And two, when I saw him in the playoffs, I didn't see very much of him because he got annihilated by a team that in turn got annihilated by the Patriots. I understand he beat the Patriots last week, but until I can see Lamar Jackson do it in a playoffs, when everything's on the line, I put zero stock in being impressive against the Bengals. I put zero stock in being impressive against the Dolphins.
Yeah. I'm trying to think.
I just don't. He lost to the Chiefs and the Browns.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if that Browns loss is bad the further we get into the season, but I think we'll see a different result at least in the first round of the playoffs this year, just because I think the offense is more built around him. They play more style that's beneficial to him. But I'm kind of with you. Like, I don't put a lot of stock in the Bengals and the Dolphins games. I am excited. He is super fun to watch, and he's probably, at least right now, you would say he's the best quarterback from that class. Because, I mean, Baker, much to everybody's happiness, has turned into a scrub. Sam Darnold sees ghosts. Josh Allen is bad. I don't even know another way to say it. So you look at all those guys, and you say he's the best right now, but that doesn't mean he can go and take you to an AFC championship game.
And so many people were down on him that now was such an overcorrection trying to get that right that it's like it's okay. Just pump the brakes a little bit. So, but that was a good win for the Ravens. I mean, 49 points and against any opponent is pretty good. But the Chiefs breaking my heart once again. Mahomes throws for 446 yards and 3 touchdowns. They still lose to the Titans. Man. Infuriating. We're going to take a quick break, come back, and talk about everything going on in the NBA. Deion Waiters not going to be playing for 10 games. Bad decision on his part. Right back on one-on-one right after this. Welcome back into one-on-one Reed Spencer, Logan Mosier. Oh boy, Gordon Hayward's back,
man,
and then he's not.
He was playing so well too.
Broken hand. He gone.
At least it's the left hand. Like, he's gonna miss a couple of months, obviously, but he'll come back from this injury a lot better than he did the ankle, obviously. It's so sad though, because he was Utah Gordon Hayward again. He was playing so well for the Celtics, and
rip.
Yeah, it's just cut short in the middle of the season. He will be back. So I'm not like the Celtics season's over. Not that I really care about the Celtics season anyway, but
I mean, they're 7-1. They're a real
They're one
player
of the
in the East.
Yeah, I was about to say they're one of the 4 good teams in the East. So
What does this do to Boston though, going forward without Gordon Hayward? I mean, they obviously played without him last year. That's with
right,
Kyrie Irving. Now you have to adjust again, and it's always tough losing a guy at this point in the season because I don't think anyone's found their groove yet.
right.
But you've gone through training camp, everything with Gordon Hayward. Now he's gone for a couple months, and you mentioned maybe a part of why they're 7-1 is because of how well he's been playing. So what does this loss mean going forward over the next couple of months?
I think you're gonna have to rely a lot more on Jason Tatum and Kemba Walker going forward. Not that like that's a bad thing. Those guys are 2 great players, 2 all-star caliber players. But this is so much more of a Brad Stevens team than the Kyrie Irving, Al Horford Celtics were. These guys move without the ball really well, pass and cut really well, and you're removing Gordon Hayward from that mix. It's hard to find a guy that has his skill set because he could dribble, pass, and shoot. He could do it all for you. They don't have a ton of guys just because there's not a ton of the guys in the league like that. But, you're probably looking at, I don't even know who would take up a lot of his minutes. Probably Marcus Smart is going to eat up a lot of those minutes. So it's not like a scrub's coming in for that spot, but you just lose a little bit of that depth.
Do you think they're a better team now than last year?
Yeah.
With
100%.
Kyrie Irving?
They play more Brad Stevens style. It's not a lot of Kyrie isolation. And that's not – Kyrie Irving is a great isolation player. So if you have him on your team, you might as well use him for that. And, is that going to win you a ton of games in the regular season? Not as many as the style that Brad Stevens and them play now. But having a guy like Kyrie Irving is great for the offseason and the playoff games when you need a basket. But I think they're better now because they play more of Brad Stevens' style.
I think I wouldn't say a favorite. I think you still have to put Philadelphia and Milwaukee ahead of them right now.
Yeah.
But they're a player for a deep playoff run in the East. That's really not saying that much because the East isn't very good.
Right.
But Boston losing Gordon Hayward for a couple months with that broken left hand. Dion Waiters. What a week for Dion Waiters.
Yeah, this was rough.
So he took an edible, right, on the plane. Had a panic attack. Now he's suspended for 10 games by the Heat.
And he hadn't played yet all year anyway. He has been suspended to start the season for conduct detrimental to the team. We don't know what that story was.
It wasn't eating an edible on an airplane.
No, it was
not for that one. That's what this one's about.
Oh, this is such a bad look for him. Because, he went to Miami after that year with OKC, got paid quite a bit of money. He makes a lot of money to play basketball for the Miami Heat, and he hasn't really done that lately. But not a good look. I would imagine Pat Riley has already looked to move him elsewhere. But the thing is, who wants him?
What an episode. What a story. I feel like you only get this out of the NBA.
Absolutely. This is not coming out in an NFL this is not leaving an NFL locker room.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but Dion Waiters has kind of been he's an interesting guy, let's put it that way.
He is. He has the whole Waiters Island. People love him, especially around here. People love him for whatever he did. I don't even know. I don't know why people like him so much. He's just a goofy guy, I guess, but he's not doing himself any favors here.
Is Phoenix for real?
No.
Tell me why. Because I'm getting the sense from a lot of people it's like, whoa, Phoenix has really turned a corner. It's like, they're 6-3.
Yeah.
It's 9 games out of 82. Tell me why they are not for real, Logan.
Well, for one, Ricky Rubio's hitting 38% of his threes. That's just not sustainable. Ricky Rubio's been a career 32% shooter, I think, something like that. Kelly Oubre is playing 30 minutes a game. That's not sustainable. He's not a guy that can be productive out there for 30 minutes. Aaron Baines along the same lines, playing 25 minutes right now. That's not sustainable. Frank Kaminsky playing 24 minutes. They have hit a really nice stride, and I think Monty Williams is a very good coach. But right now, as a team, they're hitting 38% of their threes. That's not going to be sustainable. Devin Booker's hitting 53 by himself. He'll still shoot a high percentage, but he's not going to be shooting 53 at the end of the year. So it's a nice little story. I think Monty Williams is a good coach, and he's turned them around to not be the worst team in the West, not to be a playoff team quite yet. But, I do think their offense looks a lot better than it ever has since Nash left.
So you don't think they'll be there?
I don't think they'll be there in a month.
No.
They're fifth right now. I bet they're not in fifth. I bet they're not a playoff team by Christmas.
I agree with you, but you have to look at Phoenix as man, this is refreshing that they're not 0-10 to start the season.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
they're doing this all without DeAndre Ayton right now, which is probably
25-game suspension, right?
Even more impressive. And we'll see if he gets that suspension reduced. But right now, serving that for a PED violation.
Do you know who has the worst point differential in the NBA right now? Yeah, just take a guess.
As a team?
Yes.
Is it the Suns?
No, they're actually.
Or is it the Warriors or the Knicks?
It's close to being the Warriors. It is currently the Memphis Grizzlies, minus 11.4 point differential. And unfortunately, the Knicks are, number 2 in that category. That is 10.1. The best point differential in all of basketball currently is the Boston Celtics.
I was about to say it has to be Boston. They are always in that range, though. Their defensive rating is always insane. It's usually in the low 100s, and their offense is always really good, too. So they always have that good point differential. The Thunder are always up there, too. They're up there this year, I think. I think they're in the top 10. And oddly enough, so is Phoenix right now. So I doubt that'll be sustainable either.
The Thunder's is not, they're 4-6, but they actually have a plus 1.8 point differential. So
you got to take it.
Times aren't terrible for the Thunder, not quite yet. Here it is. The Knicks, again. The Knicks are the Knicks. The Knicks are doing very Knick things. How as a head coach would you feel if you were being blatantly undermined?
Disrespected and upset and angry, and whatever David Fizdale's feeling, it's justified.
Okay. I don't know how to go with this, because I agree with Kevin Durant when you say the Knicks aren't the brand anymore in New York, right? But I don't blame David Fizdale for looking at the jobs he had and, took the job in New York over Atlanta and Phoenix and places like that. The Knicks are still the Knicks. They still play in Madison Square Garden. As bad as they have been, I would much rather go see a game in Madison Square Garden and catch the vibe of the Knicks over just about any other environment in the NBA. I really would. That's an environment I want to experience. That's a game I want to see. But the Knicks are an embarrassment to professional sports. How does your general manager and president do a press conference after a loss before the head coach without his knowledge saying this isn't good enough?
Especially when it's not his fault. Like, you gave the guy 12 power forwards that can't shoot. You gave him Bobby Portis, Taj Gibson, Julius Randle's a nice player. That's not the worst contract they have. But you look at how the front office has constructed the team, and I would press you to find any coach that could win with this team. I think Brad Stevens would have a hard time winning with this team. I think Greg Popovich would have a hard time winning with this team. I think Steve Kerr would have a hard time winning with this team, because I'm not sure how much better their roster is than the Warriors. And Steve Kerr's obviously struggling there, but it frustrates me to no end when front offices do stuff like this, because the coach ultimately is responsible for wins on the floor and stuff like that, but when you do as bad a job as they have over the past 20 years, you got to look upstairs. It can't be all the 5 to 10 coaches you fired. It has to be the guys that are making those decisions personnel-wise. It's so frustrating, because this happens across all sports. Barrett has mentioned it a ton of times about the Redskins. Jay Gruden, while he may not have been a great coach, what was he supposed to do with the way the front office works with stuff?
Quit.
Yeah. When you see guys, when front offices have seen 6 or 7 head coaches come and go, that should tell you more about the front office. And this goes to James Dolan about how incompetent he is. He can't recognize that. And he's always had, the biggest issue has always been putting the guys in charge to make decisions. Phil Jackson turned out to be a big fat bust, even though he did get Porzingis. And now these guys, they've drafted R.J. Barrett, who looks to be a nice piece, but who knows if he's even going to be happy there in 2 years.
Is he happy there now?
I think he has to be, just because he's still feeling the rush of being new to the NBA, and he is playing in Madison Square Garden, like you said.
But he can sense the circus.
I think everybody can.
I mean,
There's a reason
you're-
Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving didn't choose to go there.
you're always going to find somebody to take that job because there's only 30 of them. You're always going to find somebody to take the Redskins
Yep.
jobs. There's only 32 of those in the world. Everyone's going to want to take the job to be the head coach of the New York Knicks. But how do you if you have another offer, how do you logically look at that and say, that's the job I want? Because Fizdale did that to himself.
Yeah.
I mean, he convinced himself. He chose that job over the likes of Atlanta with Trae Young and what Phoenix is building. But who would want that job, seriously? Who would go into that job thinking, I'm going to have success here? This is a long-term deal. We're going to be able to win. I don't think you can – anyone consciously can take that job and say, I'm going to fix this. You can't because it's not – you don't have the ability to.
Not as a coach by yourself. You'd almost have to have power of the front office and coaching responsibilities, and that never works. Doc Rivers tried it. They took one of the titles away. Van Gundy tried it, and he lost both jobs. I mean, it doesn't work. It's hard to build for the future while also maintaining what you have on the basketball court right now. But they have to get somebody that knows what they're doing upstairs. Otherwise, this is never going to change. You know, they have plenty of cap space now, but they had cap space last year, and they're planning to go get some guys turned into Marcus Morris Sr. and Bobby Portis and Julius Randle for a combined like $30 million a year. So there's a lot of problems in New York, and I think David Fizdale is probably one of the few bright spots because you saw what he was able to do in Memphis with a competent front office. They had a really good team for a very long time, and then ultimately he did end up clashing with the star player, and that'll always get you fired in the NBA because the star player makes $30-something million a year, and you're making $2 or $3 million. So it's always easier to get rid of the coach in that situation. But David Fizdale is not the problem in New York. I can't even remember the names of the GM and the assistant GM, but they are terrible, and they should be losing their jobs way before David Fizdale.
Well, it's a tough go
And
in New York right now.
This goes without saying, but James Dolan should sell the team.
Yes.
We always have to say that.
And he never will. Should, but never will.
He's got to have somewhere for his jazz band to play. I mean,
Madison Square Garden's the best place of all. We're going to take a quick break, come back, talk about Oklahoma State basketball and what you're going to see the Cowboys wearing on Saturday against Kansas. Right back on One right after this. Welcome back into One. The Oklahoma State Cowboys pick up their second win of the year. Although ESPN tells you they're 1-0, they are 2-0.
Which one are these? I guess they're not counting this last win because they were 1-0 after the ORU win.
I'm going to throw a joke at you.
Okay.
Oklahoma State bounced Kansas City. Get it? Because they're the Kangaroos. Rate that 1 to
okay.
10. That's fine. That's a bad. I would rate that like a -2. But a good win for the Cowboys. They get a 69-51 win over UMKC. I mean, you're not going to learn a ton about your teams at this point in the season, but they did get a win that was, 18 points. That's got to be a little encouraging, right?
Yeah.
Because they struggled against ORU and Rogers State.
Right.
So, I mean, you're at least you're starting to beat people you should.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to start getting tested really soon. I mean, this is not something that is going to ultimately continue for a long, long time. But
man, you ready for? You were mentioning they're about to get tested earlier or later on in the year. To end November, to end this month, you play Syracuse. Then you go on to play Georgetown, Wichita State, Houston, Minnesota. All tournament teams.
That's a tough stretch.
Year. That is a tough stretch. That's when you'll be end of November, beginning of December, up until right before Christmas. That's when that stretch is. We'll learn a lot about the Cowboys during that stretch.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much what we know about them right now.
We know they're 1-0 according to ESPN.
Yeah, 2-0. So back in action against Charleston on Wednesday. So good win for the Cowboys. Cowgirls fall in the Big 12 tournament. Unfortunately,
but still regular season Big 12. champs.
Still regular season Big 12 champs. They fell to Kansas 2-1.
And they'll find out. I don't remember exactly what time the selection show was today.
It is today, but I have not heard.
I haven't either.
When it's going to be. So certainly, I mean, the Cowgirls tough loss in the Big 12 tournament, but expect that the Cowgirls are going to be just fine going into the Big 12 or into the NCAA tournament. So, they're all right. That's a tough loss, but they still are regular season Big 12 champions. They earned that over the course of the year. Happy Veterans Day, by the way. Thank you to all who have served and are serving this country. What do you make of these uniforms? Pretty impressive from Oklahoma State this weekend that they will debut against Kansas.
This is gonna sound really bad, but I didn't love them as much as everybody else. There are parts I like about them for sure, but
the gray aspect, it incorporates certainly a military feel with the gray and what's on the helicopters. I understand that, but you know how I feel about gray. But the tribute is certainly awesome.
Absolutely, I love the flag on the shoulder. The ROTC patch they have on the other shoulder is great. I kind of agree with what you said though. We're seeing the Cowboy Battalion right there. I kind of wish they had just done just nothing back there. I think if you had just left it blank, kind of or try to do something that maybe some of the military academies do. Obviously, don't put Army or Navy on there because that's not who we are. But, just something like that. Overall, they were good. I love the camo accents on the back of the helmet and the stuff under the shirt. I thought that was really cool. I'm excited to see him wear them. I hope it's not. My fear is that it's going to be really cold and maybe I don't know the weather for Saturday.
I think it's supposed to be 60 and sunny.
Okay, so never mind. That totally disregarded what I was about to say. I was going to say I'd hate to see it if they were out there, in the snow wearing those.
Or overcast and gray.
Yeah,
it's hard to see. But certainly, you love the tribute and what it's for.
Yes.
Again, it's Veterans Day, so thank you to, again, all those who have served and are serving. But neat for Oklahoma State to do that. Here's the worrisome part about this weekend. Kansas is coming to town, and it's not basketball. That's not the worrisome part. Kansas, the football team, is coming to Stillwater.
You know what I just realized?
We've never been worried about Kansas in football.
That, and Kansas is just it's the transfer for everybody OSU. Les Miles is the head coach there. Bill Self is the head coach there for now. It's just a bunch of Oklahoma State guys.
Are you worried about this team coming to Boone Pickens Stadium on Saturday?
Not as much as I was 2 weeks ago. After watching them play against Iowa State and TCU, I'm not as worried about the Cowboys going in. They're already bowl eligible. My worst fear was Kansas coming in and somehow denying us bowl eligibility later in the year. So that problem is mainly gone. I am still worried because, Les Miles is coming back to Stillwater. He can motivate guys for games like this, and the Cowboys may come up a little bit flat in a game like this because they're already, like I said, bowl eligible. But I don't think that's going to happen. I'm not too worried about it. But I know we talk about it all the time. You get yourself worked up, and then they just go steamroll them on Saturday.
Yeah, I am worried because the story that Hallie Hart wrote, talking to former players of Les Miles when he's here, he can energize a losing football team like nobody else. Be sure to go to the O'Colly and read that story by Hallie Hart. But he just finds ways, and that the thing I'm worried about is not the X's and O's part of it, not the talent gap, but just Oklahoma State kind of being like, well, we were worried about Kansas, but now we've won 2 straight.
Exactly
Kansas
what I just
isn't
said.
winning. It's just like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
And then Les Miles is over there making up some crazy story about why they should beat this team. They fired me. No, I'm just kidding. He probably won't say that. He did leave on his own accord.
I was about to say, if anything, he should be like, I said I was never going to leave, and then I went to LSU.
Yeah, I did say I was here for the long haul, and then I was in Baton Rouge. I actually said that on the plane, and then I was in Baton Rouge. But no, seriously, you shouldn't be worried, but as an Oklahoma State person, you see the writing on the wall sometimes.
Yeah.
But Mike Gundy, at his press conference, did say they had good practice. They're in a good spot right now, but it's not like he's going to come out and say they were awful yesterday. We're in a really bad spot. We're terrified of Kansas. No, but I think Oklahoma State ideally should be able to get the job done on Saturday. They're 17.5-point favorites at this point?
Yep, 17.5 points.
That does worry me.
I get it.
Home favorite, not Oklahoma State's specialty.
No, definitely not. But, and I feel it feels dangerous to say this, but it is Kansas. Like, if you can shut down Puka Williams, I don't think Carter Stanley's going to beat you with his arm.
Okay, I'm going to leave all of this talk to you.
Okay.
So on next Monday, I can say, hey, I was worried. That guy across the desk was not worried. So you're just not. You are taking your stand on Monday, not worried.
Not at all.
See, now you're making it worse for me. Now I'm like worried more. Like it should not be. I should not be worried.
I can't wait. This is Monday. I cannot wait to see you on Friday.
I might get sick on set on Friday. I might be sick to my stomach. I always convince myself that the other team, Oklahoma State's opponent, is vastly better. Like they will find a way. Points per game in favor of Oklahoma State. Points allowed per game in favor of Oklahoma State. Yards per game, way in Oklahoma State's favor. They pass more by 1.2 yards.
Yeah.
Rushing, that's what Oklahoma State's got to do. Like, just run all over them. Yards allowed. Kansas allows more passing. Actually, they allow less passing. That's not true. Oklahoma State allows 275 per game. Kansas 237. But Oklahoma State's not allowing as much on the ground. Slow Puka Williams down. Let Chuba Hubbard run all over the place. It's going to be fine.
That's kind of where I'm at. Like, they only have the one weapon, really. They only have Puka Williams, and they definitely don't. And I hate that I cannot remember his name, but he was that D lineman they had about 2 years ago, the only NFL prospect to come through Kansas in a while. I can't remember his name, but he's not there anymore either. So I think Chuba Hubbard's just going to have a field day on Kansas. I'm calling it now.
Well, I hope you're right, because that will make for a better show next Monday.
Yes.
But we will be breaking down this Kansas game going around the Big 12 and those matchups this week on Wednesday. Be sure to tune into that. Thank you so much for watching One-on-One. Again, happy Veterans Day. Thank you to those who serve and have served and continue to serve. So, again, can't say it enough. Happy Veterans Day, and thank you for what you do. Thanks for watching One-on-One. We'll see you on Wednesday.